Thank you. And I'm sure during the conference or the gathering, we'll have the opportunity to dig into all these questions of the history of the last 30 years and moving forward. How do you think that the gathering will support the community in the field of mindfulness more broadly over the next 30 years?
Well, one of the interesting things that we've noticed is that it started with the problems of depression, but over the last 30 years, it's been applied to many other problems in living, physical problems like cancer diagnosis, other psychological problems like PTSD and obsessive compulsive disorder. Um, and Wherever it's been applied, it seems to be as effective as the existing best evidence-based treatments. And although some people might like it to be better than evidence-based treatments that exist, it was never our intention for it to be anything except as anything other than established as an evidence-based treatment so that people had an alternative, for example, an alternative to antidepressants, to do something if should they want an alternative to prevent relapse in depression. That's true, I think, in other fields as well. Um, and now it's been used in these for different problems, but in different cultural contexts, in different ages. And a gathering like this can gather all the experts and practitioners who want to come from around the world who've applied it in these different contexts, and we can learn from them about how it's gone, what are the difficulties, what are the discoveries, what are the delights that they're experiencing in applying this to their own situation. And that's why I think over the next 30 years, a gathering like this will go down in the history of MBCT, I hope. It's very rare for John Teasdale and Zindel Siegel and me to be together in the same place. It's been now some years since we were together on the same platform. I don't think that uh, we're likely to be here in the next 30 years. I would be a very, very old person if we were. Um, and so it's a great opportunity for us to go back to basics, to understand theoretically why these things work. What is it about the mind that gets locked in these, you might call them information processing cycles? That's what John Teasdale called them in that 1995 paper. These cycles that we try to pursue our personal goals, um, but the goals that go round in our head can neither be attained nor relinquished. That's exactly the phrase we use, that you get stuck in these brooding loops which you just can't get out of, and yet it doesn't get you any nearer the goal of happiness or the goal of contentment that you want. What is it about that? Because that's pretty common to virtually every mental health and most physical health disorders as well, that you easily just destroy your soul with this brooding. Now, if we can get back to basics on what are what is the understanding of the mind that allows us and encourage us to teach mindfulness, um, then over the next 30 years it can blossom afresh in new ways, in new areas, with adaptations that people can use, but always based on a formulation, a coherent formulation of what is it that's going wrong and how does mindfulness help skillfully to escape, to make out, to enable us to be free from what it is that haunts us and afflicts us in our minds.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to the gathering because it is going to be that combination of hearing about impact and what's already happening in the research, and then looking forward to how we might develop and, apply that in the next 30 years. Yeah, and like you say, the three of you together is going to be, really valuable for all of us. So thank you for agreeing to do that for us.
Well, even if we take the field of depression, it's still so needed. The number of antidepressants, even in the United Kingdom, is still going up. I think it's gone up every year for the last 5 years. It's now 8.7 million people on antidepressants. Um, uh, Even though antidepressants for many people is a lifesaver, that shows how many people are going to their GPs asking for help with depression. And to be able to have an alternative through the talking therapies in the NHS and so on is really valuable.
Yeah,
And I think it's very helpful to make a case for mindfulness in in terms that that current commentators, even if they're skeptical about mindfulness, can understand, like the economic case,
Yeah.
or the effect of evidence-based psychological treatments on cardiovascular health, for example, helping people to get back to work. There's now good evidence that helps increase people's capacity to work over the 3 to 7 years after being on successful psychological therapies. So benchmarking mindfulness against other psychological therapies enable us to leverage that evidence from other psychological therapies to argue for mindfulness alongside the other evidence-based treatments within health services throughout the world.